Hello and welcome to Group Chat. I am Justin Verrier, and joining me with their jerseys tucked into their pants, not only their pants, their jeans, but just also the front, we've got Rob Mahoney, we've got Big Waz, and we've got Game 7. Game 7! Rob, do you want to do the full Zaza here? Or?
It's really hard to imitate his tone, but it's like a Game 7, baby!
No, what was it? Do it the hard way. Nothing's easy.
It is. You got to get the nothing easy. Very important part of the process. But you raised the jersey tuck, Justin. I'm curious for you, when was the last time you wore, as an adult man, a basketball jersey that was not like a rec league jersey of a player, of a thing, of a place?
I think it was the same time that you guys probably wore the last ones, which was true. In front of the Indiana faithful.
Yeah,
with our jerseys. Yeah, I haven't worn one beyond that since, I don't know, early college, like a Stephon Marbury jersey that I thought that I was like really cool wearing, but then wore it like twice. Was you wearing jerseys regularly?
No, I have one soccer jersey. I have a Kevin De Bruyne jersey that I wore to the U.S. women's national team friendly that I went to like 2 months ago.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's about it, though.
Yeah.
Soccer kit's a different beast, though. I like, again, the tank
it's
top.
a shirt.
Yeah. I don't know if that counts.
Make a difference. Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
You can see what Adidas was up to. You know, you can understand the vision.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because as we kind of go toward this Game 7, we're getting a lot of clips of LeBron in the Game 7 against Golden State. And you're reminded of how, for a while there, we wore T-shirts as jerseys and thought it was cool.
The sleeved NBA jersey era, not our best moment that ever existed. But yeah, I think with jerseys, keep it simple and the people will enjoy it.
The fact that one, though, is burned into Game 7 history in particular, it's incomprehensible in a lot of ways.
Like ripped during the Iguodala block.
It's a little ripped up.
Because those sleeves were so constricting, I think a lot of players complained that it was actually affecting their motion.
Compression
so a lot of them,
sleeves.
ripped the bottoms of them. Yeah, it was wild. We did this for a time.
No longer. But the Game 7s will continue apace. We get another NBA Finals Game 7, the 5th during my lifetime. And so, the 6th during my lifetime. We've had 5 on record. I am overjoyed that we are here. We all talked about this coming in as a potentially maybe short series, that we weren't sure if the Pacers were going to be up to the competitive standard of specifically the OKC defense. That has not been the case at all. This has been everything I could have wanted from a series like this, down to the fact that we now get a winner-take-all Game 7. Just the best possible outcome in professional sports. Like a NBA Game 7 in the finals. I don't know what's better than that.
Yeah, let's take this big picture first, because I have down here 7, count them, 7 questions to decide Game 7 of the NBA Finals on Sunday. And we have to start first and foremost with how good this NBA Finals has been, as Rob is kind of alluding to. My question was for you is, where does this Finals rank among the best you've seen? Is it already like in the upper echelon? Are you waiting to see 7 to get there? Like, where are you?
I can't put it above 16, of course, because in my mind, that's peak NBA non-Jordan edition that I've experienced in terms of stakes, in terms of interests, in terms of like, I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing, who I was doing it with, watching that Game 7. I remember the last like Steph shot and like Kev Love catching the rebound, and I was like, the Cavs really just won the championship. That I think is just in a class by itself. But outside of that, it's 2013, which LeBron is involved in too, with the Spurs. Ray Allen shot. Game 7 was pretty freaking phenomenal. Game 7 was incredible, by the way. Back and forth. No big leads for real in that game. Big LeBron shots down the stretch. Duncan bricking the layup. Like, I remember that like it was yesterday too. And then I would say, man, the Kobe Celtics one that went to 7 games. Our guy Ron Artest, Pacers legend Ron Artest, making that big 3 to kind of ice the game. Just those 3 finals stick out to me. in that order, by the way.
I have to admit, both the Celtics and the Lakers wins of relatively recent vintage, I just did not move me at all. I don't know why. Like, long competitive series, hard fought. It's just like I never quite felt the charge of those series in a way that I certainly felt.
You mean Ubuntu and the Powell and Kobe?
Yes. And honestly, if we want to go back, even the Lakers three-peat, which was, some of those were not the most competitive series. Some of it was awesome basketball to watch or to behold or to rewatch. But compared to things like the LeBron exercises you mentioned, like whether it's the Cavs Warriors, whether it's the Spurs Heat, whether it's Mavs Heat in 2011, I would put those a cut above. And I would say even, we talk about 2013 Heat Spurs a lot, 2014 Spurs Heat, in which, again, not a 7-game exercise or demonstration by any stretch, but
amazing.
The way they dismantled the Heat had a I cannot believe my eyes sort of quality that I think set even that series apart and made it something pretty special. But beyond those that we mentioned, I would say this Thunder Pacer series is right there. I would say this is, depending on how you want to suss all that out, maybe on the cusp of your top 5 or so of the last 25 years of NBA Finals, which is a crazy thing to be living and experiencing firsthand, especially when the ground just keeps moving under our feet as to what the series even is.
Yeah, so there have been now 10 Game 7s. This will be the 10th one over the course of NBA history. And I think at that point, once you've reached that threshold, you're already in an upper tier. You're already in the upper crust of the games that we're going to remember. And so for that reason alone, I think we have gotten to a point where we've crossed into elite classic territory. Like, this is a hardwood classic that if that still existed, I don't know if NBA TV still exists, they would be playing this 20 years down the road. Well, maybe when they're streaming it on Twitch in the the metaverse, you will see this series because of that. And the games have been very good. If anything, this is the type of series-wise I think that will appreciate over time, almost like a fine wine, where it's like, oh, maybe we got too mixed up in the small markets and not having the celebrity players, but these guys will probably have bigger legacies as we go along, the Thunder in particular. So I almost wonder if this is going to be looked back at as more of a thing that it is even now.
Yeah, I think if I look back at the games, like last night was a blowout. There's probably been like 2 blowouts or whatever. But the rest of the games, especially when you think about game 1, which is just an all-time classic, and the way it culminates, like the comeback culminates in a freaking buzzer beater, which we got to watch together in person and then react in real time. Like, I'll remember that feeling for a very long time. And I think, more importantly, man, these two teams, I think there was this idea that Indy was not a worthy opponent. Like, they're the freaking Thunder's equal. It sounds insane to say that. The fact that those words just came out of my mouth, I almost want to jump out of my body. But the Indiana Pacers are, if not the best, they're the second best team in the NBA this season. I don't think there's an argument to be made otherwise, credibly. You cannot make the argument. And so 2 evenly matched teams, obviously different in terms of their construction and the way they go about their business. Indiana, they have 2 All-Stars, but nobody's even close to an MVP level, even sniffing it, where you could say, well, no, you would never make that case. And OKC has the MVP on their team. It's just, I just think it's a super compelling matchup. There are things that are left to be desired. I'm not going to lie. The whole OKC stoicism, we're even keel. I'm a freaking metronome. I'm Mark Daignault. I'm not a human being, blah, blah. That shit kind of gets corny to me. I'm not going to lie. I think feelings and emotion are cool parts of sports. That I could use a little bit more of from the OKC side. But in terms of the pure basketball, I have 0 complaints.
I think you might be doing Mark Daignault a little dirty. He's not an automaton. The man has thoughts and feelings.
He's white. He's white. Fucking what's his name in Boston? Why am I blanking? Yeah, he's white Joe Maz.
I don't
Same
think
thing.
he does
It's
jujitsu.
no, it's just the post game with the we do what we do and blah 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 blah. And
Sure,
it's about to
sure.
go on, blah blah blah
He's
blah
very
blah blah.
thundery. Like he's very
it's-
process oriented, and so for
Yeah,
that reason,
miss
he
me.
fits the whole
Emotions. Say something irrational.
of the logistics. Yeah, I mean, I think what the Pacers have shown is that they are clearly, if not the best, then clearly the 1B playoff team here. Like we've talked in the past about the Heat, like going to another level in the playoffs and almost being a different team once they've gotten there. It feels like the Pacers overall are just built for these sorts of environments to the point where like everyone was counting them out yet again going into last night's game. And there was actually more of a reason to. Seemed like J-Dub came about, but also Halliburton being injured. That clearly like handicapped them in a way that we thought would ultimately just lead them to tilt over. But to do that yet again, to subvert the expectations again, when we thought we were done doing that, I think speaks to just like how they're able to become something different in the postseason that people aren't expecting.
I think both of these teams have proven to be just like really evasive tactically, and certainly like narrative proof in terms of our understanding and analysis of this series. Like we've constantly felt like, okay, there is that breakthrough you're alluding to, Justin, whether it's J-Dub, whether it's OKC like finally kind of breaking through. Oh wait, here come the Pacers in game 6. And you can trace it back all the way through this series where every time one of these teams gets a leg up, the other one pulls the rug, the other one makes some crucial adjustment, the other one kind of shifts its tactics around just a little bit, or its effort, or its 3-point shooting, or whatever the variable is on that night. And it makes these games really hard to get your arms around in a really exciting way, in a way that feels like captivating and makes you want to keep watching to know, like, I just have no idea what the Pacers are capable of in game 7 on the road in OKC. I would not be shocked if they win it. How could you be at this point, given everything that they've accomplished and the fact that this team just like cannot be rattled and cannot be shaken from the way that they play. And at the same time, you can't talk yourself out of the idea that the Thunder would come in with a command performance because they've responded to some of their biggest losses with exactly those kinds of showings. And so to be in this place of complete uncertainty with all of that, of being mystified by what the Pacers are capable of and impressed, but also like a little concerned for the Thunder coming out of game 6, I am flummoxed by this series. I am flummoxed by these teams. I am enjoying the hell out of the ride of it.
Yeah. Well, Woz, look at the shape of game 6 that we just saw, where it's like Thunder came out strong. We're like, this is it. This is where we get the final game. And then the Pacers stormed back. The Thunder got close in that second quarter, and then the Pacers fucking hit the gas to the point where the Thunder couldn't even score to start the third quarter. Neither team could score to start the third quarter, but the Thunder.
But one team was up 22.
Yeah, and that helps too. It's just like even the rhythms of that game are unpredictable, even when we're inside of it.
Yeah, it's the Pacers' ability to just inspire all. Like I'm out of superlatives. They're tougher than everybody. They are. They're freaking endless reserve of mental toughness. They just out-toughed, efforted this OKC team who we like in game 1, they turned these dudes over 30 times. They just out-efforted that team in game 6, where I think at one point in the third quarter, they had 20 more possessions than the Thunder did.
Yeah. Ended up about that way too. Yeah.
That's insane. Like they were just playing harder than everybody else. It just felt that way. And OKC, again, like they're not the ones in a do or die situation, right? Like it stands to reason. But to be honest, even when they went down early, and I said this after we covered game 5, I was like, yo, the Pacers came out like a team that didn't need to play stellar defense to win. Game 6, that was not the case. Like even when they were down, they were limiting OKC to be like, all right, you're a normal offense. You're not just, blowing us out the box with like transition and just great 3-point looks and all of this stuff. And yeah, just seeing a team that's just tough, man, just down the line, right down to Tony, just freaking forearm shiver to Hartenstein. Like, bro, get out of here.
Like the Jolly Green Giant. Yeah.
That was this is a team that will not die. James Johnson finally gets in the game and it's like,
certainly does.
All right, let's fight immediately. I'm like, bro, I love the attitude and the sort of, intestinal makeup of this team, man.
I think what I'm going to remember from game 6 is that defense, is this Pacers team coming in and just being a wrecking ball on that side of the floor. And to your point was about the effort and about the commitment to all that stuff. Tyrese Halliburton participating in that on one leg, flying around, getting steals. Like the Tyrese Halliburton steal into the no look, into the Pascal Siakam hammer
amazing.
on J-Dub.
Classic.
Just one of the plays of the season and certainly of the
amazing.
finals and certainly of the playoffs. Like what a fucking sequence.
What a showman.
Did he have to do the no look was my question. But
does anyone ever?
Even on his one leg, had to add a little pizzazz. It almost felt like he was saying as he did that, it's like razzle dazzle, you know? Well, we're kind of talking about Halliburton. I had this down at number 3, but let's just like go there right now. Is he hurt? Like
He's hurt.
on the one hand, he is hobbled, and you could see it as he's moving around there. But I almost feel like the Pacers did such a good job, not only of playing to that strength, because Halliburton at the top of the arc, being able to see the full court, playing the orchestra is so dangerous even on one leg, but also Rick Carlisle working into different lineups, adding him with TJ, kind of swapping them in and out more aggressively. It almost felt like he might still be hurt, but they could still find ways to make him effective.
Yeah, to me, that's what makes you one of the best players in the world. Just because you're limited doesn't mean you can't make an impact. And to me, Halliburton, all he had to do was be a threat to shoot. You know, you have to be able to get the defense to honor what you're doing out there, to get them out of their shell and get your other guys going. And the fact that he was aggressive, he missed a bunch early, but like OKC's, they have to respect him. When this guy takes a jump shot, you can't just be like, oh, I'm not going to contest. Oh, I'm not going to react to a head fake on that. Like, you have to react to a guy who's looking for a shot, and I thought he did a great job of that. And I think that's the difference between a great player and just a pretty decently good guy. Like, you know, Porter Jr. in the second round, he has one shoulder. He can't do anything. Like, it is what it is. Like, even the little contributions that he's making, it's like, bruh, like, it's Porter Jr. One arm, it is what it is. Halliburton on one leg, because he is one of the best players in our league, a star player, he can find a way to still be impactful. And I thought he just showed himself to be like of that caliber of player last night by doing it in a limited capacity.
Yeah, I think guys like MPJ giving it their all in those circumstances is admirable. It's just not always effective. It's just too easy to cheat away from a guy like that. It's too easy to close the gap knowing that they're not going to drive or put the ball on the floor. Halliburton did just enough of that stuff. And Justin, you isolated it too. Like, playing every one of his minutes with either McConnell or Nembhard on the floor with him alleviated so much of the ball handling pressure to the point where they don't have to go to him to force anything, right? He can just be a conductor. He can just be a conduit. He can just be someone who's helping the offense to flow. And at the same time, you can see that he's not Tyrese Halliburton. Like, you can see that he's having to pick his spots even within all of those protections and all of those accommodations. I mean, they were just pounding the ball through TJ and Nembhard time and time again for exactly that reason, to the point that their usage basically flipped from what it usually is in the playoffs. You can get away with that because he's that kind of shooter like you talked about, Woz. You can get away with that because he's the kind of guard who can play with other guards. And it's so funny to end up in that place after starting his career with De'Aaron Fox. And that was the question of like, can these guys coexist as stars together on a high-level team? Right. And here's Tyrese Halliburton coexisting with TJ McConnell on a team that's one win away from the championship.
Yeah, it almost feels like he leaned on some of his physical advantages there, where he was stabbing away at the ball because he is so long. And he did, for what it's worth, like, despite the fact that he couldn't move as fluidly as he could in the past, like, he was busting his ass defensively. And then on the flip side, you see what he can do with his vision, not only being so tall, but also just having that preternatural feel for the court. Like that one early in the first quarter, like swing pass across the court to Nembhard for the corner three. I was like, God damn, like how many people are making that pass, let alone seeing that, and let alone being able to execute. He was plus 25 in that first half alone on the hobbled leg. And then that's probably a good segue to go to question number 2, because I have, did you learn anything new from game 6? And for me, I thought TJ and Obi Toppin have now solidified themselves as the not fucking around crew, where yes, TJ is his own thing. Clearly he has just been on another level the past, 3 games at this point. Almost like Steve Nash dribbling in between defenders, like snaring rebounds, almost like Nash used to, which is obviously ironic because Halliburton and the Pacers overall have been getting the Nash comparisons, but like him plus Toppin gives them something that just almost like galvanizes their advantages, where it's like off of the misses, and the Thunder had a ton of them. Those guys are fucking moving. And so it's like at a certain point wise, it almost feels like that second wave has become just as much an advantage as their first unit, which has obviously impressed us this entire playoffs.
All I know is that Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Anthony Edwards, fucking Julius Randle, all of these dudes had trouble getting to the paint, dribbling against this defense. Like, just a hard time finding their sort of airspace. TJ McConnell is just like, watch me work. Like, he does the Nash thing, the probe thing, but he's doing it for his own shot.
Yeah.
He's literally doing it to just get 8 feet away, to get the smallest amount of space, take a fadeaway 8-footer, and he's just cashing it, and then sometimes when the ball gets swung to him on a rotation and he's at the 3-point line, like, oh God, it's a record scratch. And it's like, oh, they let the defense set up again. And it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. I record scratched this freaking possession by not letting the 3 fly. It doesn't matter. Still gonna get to the rack. Still gonna get to my shot. Still gonna get to my spot. This shit defies logic that I've ever known about the NBA.
It's broken the series, like straight up.
They've tried everybody on him.
Yeah.
He's cooking every one-on-one matchup.
Well, you can't swipe away the ball.
McConnell.
You can't swipe away the ball when it's like a couple inches from the ground because has such a low center of gravity. He's like weaving around these things like a freaking speed bike.
Dude, Wiggins, Wallace, they're like, yo, no, Wallace, you're supposed to be our stopper.
In theory.
No.
McConnell stopped Wiggins on one play. He swiped it away.
Completely stripped him. I don't understand it. Like, we've been talking about TJ McConnell for so long as, again, a hardworking player, a good backup, but there comes a point in every playoffs where it just doesn't work anymore. We just have not clearly reached that point in this run. And at this point in his career, that just might be who he is. He's a little harder to tamp down. And it's a combination of, all of that effort, all of those circle throughs that we're talking about, but also just like straight up knocking down essential nails, mid-range jumpers at a rate that every finals team in history has a guy who's doing that. Like, there's behind every champion, there's a Tristan Thompson push shot.
Assassin.
Yeah, completely.
JJ Barea flashback right now.
Straight up. Yeah. But look, ultimately the McConnell stuff has been discussed a lot. The Obi Toppin stuff I don't think has been discussed enough. Yeah. And as a longtime Obi Toppin guy myself, we're living, we're eating, we're pointing the finger at Tom Thibodeau saying, why weren't you playing this guy before you let him go?
But here's the thing though, Rob. I always liked Obi because he played hard and super athletic guy, and the skills seemed to be coming along. He did not play defense like this in New York.
He did not.
He was he sucked. He was terrible at defense. And I'm like, yo, I like Obi, but I understand why Tibbs is like, bro, if you're just going to be a freaking turnstile, or you never give a decent contest at the cup, piss poor rebound. Like, I'm sorry, like he was
all real
bad.
Things. See, all of that is real, but this is the reason why Tom Thibodeau teams historically don't have the preseason to postseason development story. Like, there's no guy that's like, oh, this guy popped in a way we didn't really expect.
No.
There's no one that and a lot of coaches are this way. Michael Malone was like this.
Yeah.
When you don't invest in those guys and give them the opportunity to earn minutes, to play through some of those mistakes, to earn your trust, then that's what you end up with, is an incredible athlete and really capable player sitting at the end of your bench.
Oh.
If you're the Indiana Pacers, you end up with the guy who is second on your team in this series in made threes, like bombing away. It's him and Aaron Nesmith at the top of that list. He's tied with Tyrese Halliburton for made threes in the NBA Finals. Obi Toppin.
I think the leading score on the team in the third quarter was like 10. Like, bro, it's a joke. The level of collective greatness that is happening right now. It's almost like a cliche, but this is just a sum is greater than the whole. Or is it the whole is greater than the sum? I never know with that one. But
the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Okay, cool. There you go. This is the most cliche that I've ever seen of that, like ever seen of that term.
Yeah. I think it was 6 players with 8 points or more at halftime alone. And obviously, Obi ended up, I think, the leading scorer in that game.
The 2 big threes, the 3-point makes were from Obi and Nembhard. Again, these guys did not come into this league with 3-point reputations.
Yeah.
When they let one fly now, you expect it to go in.
Yeah. We talked a lot about the offense too, but obviously defensively,
the defense was amazing.
It's just been on another level. And it did seem like, Rob, that the Pacers were being a little bit more concerted about picking SGA up and like switching lower on the court. And obviously that feeds into the Thunder's biggest problem is when the shots aren't falling, like trying to get into the paint has just become a mosh pit that SGA or anybody is struggling to navigate.
Yeah, this is what I felt like I learned in Game 6 was not just that the Pacers are a good defensive team, like they can be a dominant defensive team. They can upend a game with their defense, which is not something you would necessarily guess based on their personnel, but it is that collectivism. It is having enough guys who are good at enough different things to make all that stuff work. You know, Waz, you mentioned all the teams and players who have struggled to score anything against that OKC defense over the course of these playoffs to get any kind of consistent rhythm. How many teams and defenders have we seen struggle to get anything going, slowing SGA down?
Yeah.
And this is one of the first teams and first players in Andrew Nembhard to actively do it. And I would say in this game in particular, completely threw Shea off balance. And I thought the doubles that they were throwing at Shea were really effective, specifically like the blindside stuff when he would turn his back and you saw Halliburton, you saw McConnell go in for those steals, really muck things up. Shea had 8 turnovers, not just in this game, but in the first 3 quarters. 8 turnovers for Shea in the first 3 quarters. The Pacers had 7. Like that to me is a lot of the game, is he did not have control of the thing that he had to have control over. And that is true because the Pacers made it true.
I think what you saw in Game 6 against Shea is they're figuring out his timing, which just seemed like the most impossible thing to do in the league because it's so herky-jerky, so offbeat, so just not similar to anybody else's. Where I feel like Nembhard is he's timing the Shea forearm shiver thing perfectly now, where he knows where that bump is coming to create the space, and he's still able to take it and close off the air and the distance that Shea usually is able to create with that move. It's kind of, I think that's what it is. Like when McConnell is coming over, timing the double perfectly, they're just better at timing Shea because it's been 6 freaking games now, you know?
True.
And these guys are all-world elite defenders. Like, Nembhard is an all-world defender, dude. He's one of the best in the league. He's shown it throughout this whole playoff run. Nesmith, same thing. He's fouled out of damn near like every single game except for Game 6. Game 6 is the first time he didn't have a crazy high foul game, too. So, yeah, man. OKC playing with fire, boy.
Yeah. It's just easier for Nembhard to time things, to face guard, to be a little bit more narrow-minded about guarding Shea, when obviously you have other guys to come in and dig down and help out. And that's where the lack of 3-point shooting and like dropping back into the coverage and having more guys around you in the paint has just like helped to no end. It's like I look around, there just seems like always a guy helping like within a foot, within a second distance. And like it seems like it's compounding too, because you also look at the struggles that they've had just finishing. Chet in particular just seemed like he was in a different headspace overall. But like there are 2 guys at the rim most of the time, to the point where even when J-Dub was scoring in Game 6, a lot of those were leaning away high bankers off the glass. It just seems like the Pacers, unless the Thunder force them to prove it with their shooting, like they're not going to give them that space and not going to give them that respect.
In the offseason, guys, Chet needs to put Miles Turner on his bullseye, on his dartboard or whatever. He has to put his face. Not Jokic, not Karl Towns, not Julius Randle, not none of the other elite bigs, not Anthony Davis. He needs to put Miles Turner on the dartboard because this guy is demolishing him.
Yep.
He cannot do anything offensively, guys. If it's not a spot up or it's not an alley-oop, it's done.
The problem is he also can't do anything against like Aaron Nesmith. He also can't do anything against some of the guards who get switched on him. At least this was the case in Game 6. He's had an up and down series offensively. Some
nice
games
moments,
much more effective than others. But in Game 6, he looked lost. Like he just looked lost offensively. And I think that's a tribute to what you're talking about, Justin, in terms of cutting off that flow, right? When you cut off all the access to those shooters, when you have the Pacers defense playing the sort of shell that it is and rotating and flying around in the way that they are, now all of a sudden, Chet doesn't get anything easy, or anything he does get is rushed. Anything he does get is like, again, there's one more guy in his path than he might want, or he had to take that first move so quickly or pick up his dribble so quickly, he's a little too far from the basket to finish on one of those kind of extending layups like we've seen him finish in these playoffs. I just think top to bottom, this is such a hardworking defense and such a defense that's like locked in and on a string and all the things you want to see out of high-level playoff defenses. But I just don't think we can say enough things about Andrew Nembhard and his specifically. I think he's
phenomenal.
He might just be the best like third, fourth, fifth effort defender out there. Like the number of things he will do on a given possession to stay attached to SGA and then to continue to participate and continue to influence the play is really, really rare stuff. And something that honestly you don't even get from someone like Lou Dort sometimes, or these other defenders who fly around, who try to sell calls on the screen, who you know, you'll see them hit the ground and in doing so, take themselves out of a possession, whether they get the call or not. Nembhard just navigates everything. He stays connected to you all the time, and he doesn't let you get any airspace no matter what you try to do. If you have one of those guys on your team, I think you're always pretty well positioned to at least kind of like stay intact on what you're doing defensively.
So last year, I think it was last year after Indy got eliminated, I remember Justin being like, well, Nembhard just had a fantastic postseason. I guess Mathurin has like become superfluous. And I was like, you're insane. Are you crazy? Mathurin is still the future. Have you seen this guy's potential and upside and blah, 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 blah. Clearly, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about.
He had one game.
This guy, I mean, it's not a Mathurin dig. It's just Nembhard is just amazing.
He's different. Yeah.
He's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Ben Mathurin is like in the Ben Shepherd category. It's like
Yes.
on some nights you need this kind of guy, on other nights you need that kind of guy, but like Andrew Nembhard's an every night guy.
Yes.
But you're right, though. It is a lot of him waging psychological warfare with SGA because he doesn't have the prototypical length, which is why coming into the series, we're like, maybe Nembhard. The track record suggests he hadn't done well against Shea, but a lot of it is knowing his moves, knowing when to be forceful, knowing when to back away and put his hands behind his back because he knows Shea is going to draw a foul. And maybe that's another like subtle little thing that the Pacers are gaining an edge over time because as they're having time to learn tendencies and play styles, like Carlisle and those guys are almost like flipping things that typically would be strengths into weaknesses. But you were talking about Chet there. So I do want to get to the next question, which is what's the biggest tactical or strategic wrinkle you're watching for? And for me, I think the big one is just how much you go too big versus one big. It's kind of the big question that we've been cycling through this entire series. Double big started well. And overall in this finals, they're +5 in 19 minutes. 19 minutes, obviously a pretty small sample size. The Caruso lineup, so just swapping Caruso in for Hartenstein, not as well, -13 in 50 minutes. The offensive rating is just putrid. It's 92.9. Some of that's just like funny money with minutes. You just go with the lineups that work. Obviously, they think the Caruso lineup will work better and with the matchup. But I don't know what you do here, Rob. Like, do you have an inkling? Do you think they'll go back to starting single big and like let Chet just roam? Or do you think they're going to start too big just because it started so well in this game?
I feel like when push comes to shove, Mark Daigneault goes to Caruso and he takes Hartenstein out of there. And you saw it in the second half when they were trying to close the gap. That's how they started the second half. It did not really work, as you alluded to. That lineup has not really worked on balance in the series. Like, again, with some of that fluky data accounted for, it just like has not sung in the way that you would expect it to sing. At the same time, all of that is true, and that's kind of their natural inclination for the Thunder. I feel like that's the way they lean. But if you're gonna play Chet and Hartenstein together, and I think there should be room in Game 7 for some of that. How much you want to do it kind of depends on your taste. I think they should play together some. Playing together with the other starters is the best version of that. And in a way that almost makes me a little nervous moving it around. So like, I think I would start Caruso, but I would feel a little nervous about it. I kind of think the Thunder will start Caruso. I think this might be the time where they tip that balance, even though on paper, the success has not been there in this series. But theoretically, that is the lineup that they seem to trust the most.
Yeah, I'm not convinced of the smallness of the lineups being the key here. I don't think they should go super small with J-Dub. I think that is a bad idea. To me, I guess that's like a thing they haven't tried. It's like, all right, let's go super small, super 5 out, super athletic and rangy and see what we could do with that. I just think Indy's big guys are physical.
Yeah.
I just don't think you should do that. To me, the strategy is like just go old school. Bill Parcells, football, Bob Knight. Take care of the ball. Clean your glass. Get back on defense. That's it. And then shit, man, I got the MVP. Got another great creator in J-Dub. I'll win this thing in the mud. I'll find a way offensively to win this in the mud. But in terms of like the rest of it, bro, you have to rebound. You have to get back. You have to take care of the rock. Like, that's to me is the
Totally.
ultimate to this game 7. If you are just throwing the ball everywhere, if you're getting bludgeoned on the boards because you want to get cute with the sizes of your lineup, you're not getting back with the paces and the insane pace and running up and down the court, you're done. You're not winning game 7. So to me, those are the things they need to be concentrated on. Like, get dirty.
Yeah, I think whatever decisions they make tactically, strategically, they are toward that end. It's like, how do you maximize all-out effort for the entirety of Game 7? Whatever you have to do to make that possible. And granted, the finish line is right there. You got to get through one game. And so my question is always like, how are these teams able to best empty the clip? Like, how do you want to distribute all that? How do you want to stretch? Both these teams are still playing like 9 and 10 deep. Do we see any of those role players excised out for the sake of maxing out other stars? Does someone like Pascal Siakam, who has barely guarded J-Dub in this series until the beginning of Game 6, in which I thought he had like a really good statement opening in terms of his defense on J-Dub, is that something we could see for the entire second half of Game 7? Or at least like a crucial fourth quarter of Game 7? Like, that's a lot to put on Pascal for a whole series, but this is it. Like, you just got to get through this last stretch. Maybe he has that in him. I think the Thunder starting question factors into this as well. I also think it's just a function of like, how does OKC get back to ratcheting up the defensive pressure that they need to survive? They had 4 steals in Game 6, the Thunder did. That's not a winning recipe. It's their lowest in any playoff game. It's one of their lowest of the entire season. Basically, any game in which they have around that many steals, even a couple more, they lose. Like, it's just not something that they are fundamentally able to compensate for. And so how do you ratchet up the pressure? How do you amplify that? How do you avoid some of the early fouls? I also think TJ McConnell was a huge part of that because he had these guys on their heels. And it's so hard to play good, uptight pressure defense when you're backpedaling because TJ's coming down at you full court every single time. Like, they have to find ways to slow them at the early stages of transition in order to not just be behind the 8 ball throughout the entire thing. And so there's a lot of ways in which I think both these teams are going to be trying to compensate for all of that effort, all of that marginal stuff, all that chaos that's going to decide a Game 7. And a lot of it is like, how do you make sure that your guys in minute 47 are as fresh or as capable as they can possibly be?
I think Game 6 is the blueprint for that reason. Like, you want to get the turnovers in order to spark their offense, and everything kind of flows from there. And for that reason, Rob, I agree with you. I think Caruso is the move, if only to get that flowing, because you need that sort of spark defensively to spark your offense. Because I think a lot of the time I'm wondering where the threes are coming from. And for that reason, we would be like, oh, go smaller, get more shooters on the court. But as we've seen, that's not necessarily the recipe there. And so for a lot of like make this tweak, put this guy in over that guy in, I'm kind of left being like, well, the Thunder shoot better at home than they do on the road. And maybe at a certain point, you just trust that home court advantage is an actual advantage to that point. Like, it's 40% for the Thunder at home. It's like 30 on the road. It's clearly something going on.
The Caruso and Dort, you just got to trust that they're going to make. To me, you got to roll with those guys more so than the Wallaces and Isaiah Joe. I mean, he's still picking splinters out his ass right now. Like, that dude cannot get off the bench. I think you got to lean towards those guys and just bet that they're going to make big shots in big moments in the biggest game of their lives, right? Because to me, the second they start going with offensive-focused groups, they start getting beat up. These guys, like, the defense immediately starts to suffer. And so I don't think you can even play around with that shit. Like, we're going to guard. Our responsibility is to keep the Pacers in the half court, make them be individually great in the half court, and live with our consequences after that, especially on the offensive end.
Go ahead.
Can I throw out a bold idea here?
Sure.
We're in the coaching meeting right now. We're just throwing things against the wall. Would you consider starting TJ next to Halliburton, considering how well it worked? Or is it like something's going so well so far? Why
I'm not taking Nembhard out of my.
That's the thing. If Nembhard had been bad, I would say maybe.
The
but
defense that he's playing alone, I can't take him out of my game. I can't.
Yeah. Like Nembhard's shooting has come and gone, and he hasn't always had a huge offensive impact in this series, in part because. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I give you a number for that? Because
please do.
Talking about home road splits is clearly something I had in the back pocket here. Nembhard, he's hit 3 threes on, I think, 12 shots on the road, 6 for 11 at home.
Amazing.
Different shooter.
I believe it of a lot of the Pacers guys, right? And a lot of the Thunder role players, as Woz alluded to. Like, there's guys who are hitting good percentages on balance in this series, in part because they're hitting all their shots at home. Like, they're just making up for it in one spot versus the other. But Nembhard's defense, I don't think you can replicate with TJ. And so, like, you could talk about starting all three of those guys together. That might leave you a little small. Ultimately, I think the balance of having 2 of those 3 on the floor at basically all times gives you the ball handling you need, gives you the energy you need, helps keep the turnovers down. Like, I really think that was such an important part of that formula, is like having the extra ball handler on the floor at all times really works out, to say nothing of Pascal Siakam and how he's basically another point guard out there in his own right. I would keep TJ on the bench, let him just absolutely cook whenever he comes in second units. And he's been coming in a little bit earlier as the series has kind of worn on and they're trying to stretch out his minutes. But it says a lot that TJ's played well enough. You have to think about it. Like, you do have to throw it out in the coaches meeting just to say, like, should we at least talk about this?
Mm-hmm. All right. So number 5 I have on the board here. Which guy is the guy? Who's going to be the guy that we're talking about after this game? It could be an X Factor guy. It could be the guy. But which guy is the guy, Woz, when we're breaking this down on Monday?
I keep saying his name is Nembhard, and particularly on offense. It's not just that he's scoring, but if he's getting downhill, because he's the guy outside of Siakam that gets downhill. Obviously, TJ does too with that group. But amongst the starters, like, he's going to be playing with Halliburton a lot. If he's getting downhill, another thing that he did, he's drawing fouls, which in turn does what? It just softens the defense up. It opens it up, gives you more oxygen to deal with. And I think it's got to be his on the dribble, get to the rack, get fouls on Lu Dort. So you got to calm down with all the fouling that he's already doing. And same with Caruso. To me, that's what's going to, like, open it up and make it feel like, all right, now we on even footing with these guys, because they have to honor our drive game. And at a certain point, even Miles Turner, who can't hit the broadside of a barn, you can't just leave him wide open, above the break or not. Like, you got to honor this dude's jump shot. And so I think he's got to be the pressure release valve for the offense, man. He's got to be the one getting to the cup with the starters.
I have a pick on the Thunder side, and it's in part because I have no idea how this is going to go. Lu Dort.
Okay.
I just have burned in my memory Game 7 Lu Dort against the Rockets in 2020. Bombs away for 30 points, hitting every 3. And it's like, he has that in him in games like this. Mm-hmm. He also has in him, I would say in Game 6, like a quick trigger mentality with his 3 that can be actively disruptive. And
that's right.
And again, this is a guy who's made his 3s on balance in the series, but can be disruptive to the offense because he is that confident.
About that. I don't.
We absolutely do.
The Game 7, you got Shai Gilgeous and J-Dub on your team, and you're taking Lu Dort's taking 3s with 18 seconds to go on the clock?
See, you say that, but then he's going to go for 26 in Game 7 and win. Like, this is the give and take. And here's what I come back to with Lu Dort is, like, the more limited that Tyrese Halliburton is in this series, the less useful that Lu Dort is. Like, his primary value is slowing down someone like Tyrese Halliburton from being Tyrese Halliburton. And if Tyrese is a decoy, if he's running interference, if he's more of a spot-up shooter than he is a driver of the offense, then what do you do with Lu Dort? Do you start moving him around and having him guard other people?
That's what I was wondering in the game as Halliburton was clearly hobbled. I was like, they're going to just stick to their primary coverage. And even J-Dub mentioned it in the Lisa Salters interview, I think going into the second quarter. It's like, we're going to just treat him as if he isn't hurt. We don't know what's going on there. We just have to approach it like that. And so there is a certain like fog of war happening here though. But like now we have 2 games of data. And we'll see now because game 7 is like 95 games or 95 days away. And so he'll have time to like go into the hospital and just go and have all the IVs and whatnot.
They're going to shoot him up with all kinds of ibuprofen, boy.
That's right. But I agree with Rob. Like, do we have to start thinking about utilizing and leveraging Dort's effectiveness in different ways?
You definitely could. Did y'all see the Halliburton walk-off interview where he's talking about how his girlfriend was hounding him that before they put on the next episode of Love Island, he has to do treatment on his calf?
Yeah. You watch Love Island?
I do not personally. Are you locked in?
No, I'm not.
I was actually going to do a watch-along series, so stay tuned. Watch for this space. I also saw that Halliburton's dad was wearing the jeans with all the NBA patches on there. I was like, hell yeah. Waz, did you ever have those?
No, I did not, but they were all over my freaking neighborhood. I tell you that much.
Goddamn right. So I went a little bit bigger with the guy here. I went with Pascal Siakam just because I think there's no possible way he won't have at the very least a Siakam type of impact. Yeah. And I think there is a good chance as we've seen like throughout the playoffs, like he might be the guy in this. He might be the swing guy, but the steadiness of this dude, like as Halliburton has fluctuated, and like there's actually been some good data floating around about how Halliburton, injury notwithstanding, is prone to fluctuate more than other stars. There is a whole Derek Thompson put out the call, and then Owen Phillips, the stats guy, showed like based on standard deviation, he can go based on PER will fluctuate a little more than your average superstar, which fits what we know about him. I've watched him this entire year. But Siakam just like out there keeping the backbeat like he's Ringo, 19, 15, 21, 20, 28, and 16 last game just because he played so few minutes. But like this guy's just going to give you a baseline of like 15, 8, and 6, and you're just going to kind of go along with it.
So he's Ringo. Tyrese is definitely Paul. I don't think there's any question about it. But the thing about the Pacers is they don't have a John, I don't think. They don't have anyone.
John. He's mercurial.
He's not cantankerous enough is the problem. Maybe Rick Carlisle is their John. Maybe that's why it works.
Definitely their John.
And I'm going to say
cantankerous, boy.
I'm going to say Nembhard is the George. I feel like he might be establishing himself as the George.
George was my guy. I was a George guy.
I'm a rising George. I was a childhood Paul, but I find myself cresting into George as I get older.
And the thing about Siakam too, in my mind's eye, it's like pretty much 80% of the Thunder guys they end up putting on him, when he catches the ball at like 14 feet, it feels like the Thunder end up panicking. You know what I mean? Like that, and that, again, similar to what Nembhard has to do. Like that's how their offense engine gets to going. Because instead of staying in their base defense and be like, no, we're going to cheat a little bit, but always get back on our shooters. Like, no, we got to overcommit to this guy because Lou Dort cannot guard him for real. Yeah. Caruso can't really guard this guy. And so, I think Siakam is, he's as great a pick as anybody to have an explosive game.
Pascal is amazing. Just has turned into an amazing all-around player. He is metronomic in that way that he will be a stabilizing force, whether the Pacers win or lose. I also think if the Thunder do win, we're going to be talking a lot about Chet. I think they kind of need him to have a Chet-sized impact on Game 7 if they're going to have it in hand, if they're going to take control of that game. Like they might still be able to like eke one out that's really close, just with Shea and J-Dub and the defense and shooters all clicking. But if they're going to be in control of Game 7, I think Chet is a big part of it.
Speaking of off the court clips, did you guys see the one of Siakam tapping into some spiritual underworld?
Yeah.
Or the Undertaker?
It was a seance. Yeah.
I see.
I do that before every pod. Do you guys not do that?
No wonder you've been so steady for us throughout the season.
Thank you.
Well, this kind of goes hand in hand with the finals MVP conversation, which we should do a little tracking of just before we go into the big game. This next game probably decides it. Let's just be honest. Whoever has the biggest game will most likely get the votes. But if we were to give odds based off of what might happen or just where we are right now, let's take the Pacers first and foremost. Is Siakam like odds on like, does he have the higher odds just because
Mhm.
he's been so consistent and productive, or do the high highs of Halliburton maybe cancel that out?
I think it's got to be Siakam. I was like for the same
I agree.
logic that he won the Eastern Conference MVP. He's just been the most consistently excellent pacer. He hasn't had a 0 for 8 game or whatever. Like he's just straight up been consistently great. And there's just no way this guy goes out and goes 2 for 13 on Sunday. It's not gonna happen. Like he's going to have a good ass game, and that will be 7 games in a row where this guy was steady and contributing in a major way. So to me, like Shea is number one with a bullet because I don't think he has any peers on his team for the MVP, to be honest with you. But yeah, Siakam to me got to be the second most likely.
I think especially when you factor in what it would take for the Pacers to win Game 7, it's probably going to take a big Siakam game just because Halliburton is in the state that we've already described, where he's, I'm sure, going to contribute. I would expect him to still have a nice game, but maybe not a dominant star level game because his calf won't allow him to have that. And so if we want to take games 1 through 6, I agree with you, Waz, that Siakam's really steady. I also think like Halliburton was better in games 1 and 2. I think Siakam has been better in games 5 and 6. And I think 3 and 4 were kind of a wash in terms of like they were both some ups, some downs. So to this point, it's probably closer to 50-50, but realistically projecting game 7, I think it's probably something closer to 60-40 Siakam.
That makes sense. And on the Thunder side, Rob, do you agree that it's SGA and everybody else?
I think it's like 90% SGA. I not because Jada wouldn't deserve it or there's not an argument to be made. I just think the idea that a guy averaging 30 in the finals for a team that wins would not get finals MVP would be incomprehensible. It's just not going to happen.
The Pippen buzz isn't convincing you guys. Direct Pippen comparisons pretty much across the board. Yeah,
they've been out there. J-Dub's been really, really good. And for what it's worth, I think like better at his job in game 6 than Shea was at his job in game 6. And it's certainly not outside the realm of possibility that J-Dub could have another monster closing effort in game 7. I just think like overall the body of work in terms of the raw stats will be overpowering in terms of like us, whatever it is, a 7 or a 9 person panel on Media Row.
What about the guy with the luchador mask with like the hammer? Do you think
I didn't see that guy?
Yeah, he's got no shirt on.
He's the 6th man.
He's big as hell. He's got a gut and a half, boy.
What's the deal with the hammer?
I don't know, man. This is thunder. Like we're Thor.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. It's a Mjolnir vibes.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right.
I don't even think I saw any of those. Apparently you're deep in the weeds. You're deep in the game tape.
It's true.
All right. Number 7, predictions. What do you got?
I gotta say, it just feels like there's some magic alchemy happening with this Pacers team.
I like it.
Like every time we think this team is going to go down, they just straight up don't. And there's just something in the air with this team, man. Like there's just something historic that's happening. It feels like it's happening where, again, I'm talking about in 20 years, we're going to be trying to explain this shit to people and we're not going to have adequate answers. Like there's just something happening with them, man. This is almost like when the freaking U.S. hockey team beat the Soviets. This is what it feels like with the Pacers, man. So to me, I'm picking the Pacers in game 7. The yes sirs.
Do you believe in miracles, Rob?
Here's the thing. I am Fox Mulder. I want to believe in miracles. I really would love exactly that outcome. And if the Pacers do win, I think it would just be just a phenomenal sports story and like literally a one-of-one moment watching basketball in my lifetime. I just can't quite get there. I think I have too much respect for the Thunder. I have too much respect for who they are at home. I think it's going to be hard fought. It's going to be close, as Game 7s often are, like we talked about. But I think the Thunder will have a slight edge. I'm thinking like a 5-point game. I really don't see it stretching out much more than that because I think the Pacers will be there at every turn. They are unkillable. They're the best comeback team in playoff history. They literally cannot be written out. And as loath as I am to do it, I got to pick somebody. And I see the 68-win team with the great defense that has performed well at home all throughout these playoffs and the reigning MVP sitting right there. And I don't want to write them off either. So what is a guy to do but to pick the Thunder by a slight margin?
That's what I have as well, if only because it has borne out that home court advantage actually matters in this series
like
to
a
a pretty
fucking
good degree.
lot. Yo.
Yes, both of the crowds have been electric. Like, I feel like a certain way watching those crowds from afar, which is a real credit to the fans and the local fans, like just showing up there. The team just play a little bit different. They shoot a little bit better when they're on their at home. Role players play a little bit better at home. All of those truisms, all those cliches are like coming to bear. And so for that reason, I have to imagine that the Thunder, who have only lost those 2 games, once again, by just last second buckets, are not going to lose another one at home. So I would pick the Thunder as well. But I think we're in for a good one because, as I mentioned, 9 game 7s in NBA Finals history, the average margin of victory, 6.7 repeating, baby. So when you cut off the 15-point margin from 1974, it's actually much closer than that. Last one was 4, then 7, 4, 7, 6, 3, 9, 6. Like, these games are good games. So we are in for something.
Also historically ugly as shit. I look forward to seeing if that trend continues, because the Pacers have a way of making ugly games
ugly,
yes,
and nasty, and Lou Dort's first 3 is definitely going to careen over the backboard for sure.
Yes, 6. I should mention, of the 9 teams that played in those games, the home team won those games. So favors the home team, as you might expect. All right, before we get out of here, do you guys want to talk a little Lakers?
Yeah.
So they ended up winning the bid Mark Walter did with a $10 billion evaluation. What was your bid that you were going to put in had you had the opportunity?
I wish I could get involved in that kind of bidding. I wish I had the connects at the United Arab Emirates to do something like that.
Soon.
Yeah. Well, no, I say that because Walter's, his hedge fund, his private equity group, whatever we're calling the money that formed to buy this team, got a sizable investment from the Emiratis.
Right. They're not allowed to own teams, but a minor investment in another group, shell corporation into owning.
Yeah, whatever.
Succession very quickly. Yeah.
Whatever. $10 billion. That's big. I just, didn't know the Lakers were for sale, but at the same time, there's been these whispers that they're going to eventually sell for a while, because, not to get all up in their business, but Dr. Buss had 6 kids. They're all equal partners in ownership of the Lakers, and none of them, have ever started their own successful business outside of that. Their income is
pile. Yeah.
The Los Angeles Lakers. And guess what? I did the quick napkin math, in order to turn the Walters Group from 25 to 85% owners, that's 60% at a valuation of $10 billion. 6 kids, each get $1 billion.
Not bad. Good work if you can get it. Owning the Lakers.
Not bad work if you can get it. And
Inherited
so,
Lakers,
it's not surprising when you think about the circumstances of the ownership. One of the last family-run businesses that's out there. Minnesota just sold. I guess the Pacers are still a family-run operation, but again, it's not a lot of them out there. Dolan, I mean, he got it from his dad, but that's not really a mom and pop anymore. But the Lakers, they're one of the last of the Mohicans, man. The classic wacky NBA ownership groups, and it's definitely an end of an era.
Can we talk about that? Because I have found myself a little wistful for years of bygone. Yeah,
in our profession, we should be.
It almost feels like, Waz, you could probably speak to this better than we can. Like, soccer underwent a revolution recently, where it's a bunch of outside money and it's
sovereign wealth funds. Yep.
Yeah, it won't get to that point, and the CBA has moved to a point where they're trying to suppress a team coming in and spending in the way that the Dodgers have in order to create advantage with pure cash. On the other hand, it does feel like everything's getting a little bit more efficient. And all of the character in the league has been kind of leveled out. And I always say, I'd rather bad character than no character. And it almost feels like that's kind of what we're moving toward.
You're saying more Sterlings.
Sure. I mean, maybe not of that hue. You know what I'm saying?
But a little like freakiness, a little
Sure,
like
maybe not.
This child made some weird decision because their dad just happened to have money, and all of a sudden they're running this team.
Like
and
I'm a fan of the New York Jets. Woody Johnson's son, he was down on a trade that the Jets were looking at making because the player that the Jets were receiving didn't have a cool enough Madden rating. He told his father not to trade for a guy based on the guy's rating in a video. That's a thing.
Did it work?
Freaking happened. No, it didn't work. It's the freaking Jets. Nothing works. But look, and look, we don't need to get too tawdry here, but like Jeannie Buss, the owner of the team, was dating the head coach.
True.
I don't think that's gonna happen with the Walters group.
Different times.
I just don't
Different times.
That's just not gonna happen. Like that kind of thing. No. Linda Rambis, y'all. Every time some important decision had to happen for the Lakers, we had to do reporting and digging about where Linda Rambis's head was.
Yeah.
In all of this. And Kurt Rambis, one of the worst coaches in NBA history. Okay? Like, this is what the Lakers provided for us. The Magic and Rob Pelinka soap opera. Like, we're talking about, like, generational news NBA fodder for so long. It's just not going to be the case with these freaking private equity dudes. It's going to be hyper competence, which I think Laker fans should be happy about. People in our profession, ain't nothing interesting coming out of the Lakers ever again.
I think the best thing a team owner can be is mostly invisible and pays a lot of money and facilitates a well-run organization. Mm-hmm. I think the second best thing a team owner can be is entertaining in the way you're describing, because unfortunately, most owners don't want to be in the first category. They want to be very visible. They want to understandably flaunt their power and influence. And they want to run the damn thing that they paid for, which I get. But if you're going to run the damn thing and then not be entertaining while you're doing it,
Matt Ishby is pretty entertaining.
He certainly is.
He said every team in the league would trade places with the Phoenix Suns.
I think he said all but two, so the jury is out.
The flip side of this is Ballmer, who just keeps funneling money into the project and like building out the staff so that they're so comprehensive that they could only be so bad. We expected the Clippers to basically fall flat on their face this year.
It's amazing.
Just work the margins in ways that a team of that caliber, that is getting the caliber of stars in the building, shouldn't be able to do typically. So
I think he is as much in like the first category, just like, again, pumps all that money in, has clearly lifted the bottom on who the Clippers are. We'll see with the Lakers. I suspect they're going to fall into that category. I did think it was fascinating that Ramona Shelburne reported that this is explicitly not a Mark Cuban style situation in which Jeannie Buss supposedly will have some kind of like actual written control. At least that's kind of the implication of that team. We'll see how that works over time. We've seen a lot of written arrangements.
Why do we do this
sideways.
With this? Why do we do this with these owners and their fucking egos? You don't get to take $6 billion and run the team. Like, it doesn't work like that. You don't get to run the team after the man handed you a $6 billion check.
So the question is that true today, or is that true over a transition period of a couple years?
It probably means Rob Pelinka has a job for at least a year. Okay.
He traded for Luka Doncic. He should be the executive of the year.
Nico Harrison traded for Luka Doncic.
They should be co-executives of the year.
But let's whatever. I think these are the ways that it's going to matter, in the sense that the Lakers have a skeleton scouting department. And the scouts that they do have amongst the lowest paid in the league. Same with front office. Same with head coach. Although JJ, I think, did get a decent amount of check. But, Darvin Ham and all these other guys came in because they didn't want to pay Ty freaking Lue a champion. So bare bones departments in front office, scouting, player development, you name it, what we call the infrastructure of NBA teams, that's done. They're going to blow that out, and they're going to pay to get the best people in town, because guess what? Not only do I pay you, you get to live in Los Angeles. Like if there's a guy in Milwaukee or freaking Memphis or wherever, Cleveland, that I want to get that I want to jailbreak out of there, it's like, yeah, no. Not only are we bringing you to the Lakers, glamour franchise, glamour city, we going to pay your ass too. Like, that is a huge advantage and is not subject to the draconian, cap rules that govern roster management. And so I think that stuff is where you're going to see the biggest difference made. But, the CBA has made it such that they can't come in and just completely just start spending like pirates and get it. But like you said, Justin, I think the Clippers are a beautiful sort of benchmark where it's like they can only be so trash. They're going to be in it no matter what.
Yes.
Well, Justin, with the blank check, like how much to bring you back? How much to make you the new Jim Buss?
Not as much as you think.
Well, let's put that out there to the Lakers. It's within your power to do. Bring Justin Verrier back.
I have heard. I was just reading an LA Times story about how the community gardens are like the prices has skyrocketed there.
Wow.
What's community gardens?
It's a garden everyone can use. So it's just a plot of land. And like I could live here and like down the road, there's just a plot of land that I could rent basically. Apparently it just like skyrocketed, just taking in the hands out of just the normal folk and give them to the rich. As long as I have the bank to do that, as long as I have that into my contract as a bonus, happy to do it.
Also, I think the Lakers can do that.
Also, one thing needs to be said. Jeannie Buss and her brothers, kooky ass owners. There's just no two ways about it. But under Dr. Buss and his family stewardship, 5 Magic rings, 3 Kobe and Shaq, 2 Kobe and Powell and Lamar, LeBron and them. That's 11 rings since 1980. That's fucking amazing. Like what these guys have done for Lakers fans in the city of Los Angeles, that family, since their stewardship of the team is unrivaled, man. Like they deserve love, credit for making this Laker brand into what it is, which is just one of the biggest, best, most iconic sports brands in the world. We're talking about the Yankees, Real Madrid, the Dallas Cowboys, the fucking Lakers. Like, that's what it is. It's crazy, and they deserve a lot of love for that. Built it up to be 10 billion smackaroos, boy.
If you want to learn
that's
all about it.
That's a lot of matcha teas out here, y'all. I'm telling y'all, man.
If you want to learn about it, there are 90 documentaries that have been published within like the last 4 years, all of which include Jeannie Buss on camera or as an executive producer behind the scenes. So, yeah, there's ways to make money off the Lakers
Buss
when you're not making money
with the basketballs. Just iconic. Iconicness coming out of this franchise.
What about that Kate Hudson show? Did anybody check that out?
I still haven't watched it.
I did not.
Maybe that'll be an off-season project for us. Now that we're sunsetting the Jeannie Buss era, we got to get into the ephemera.
Check that out.
That wasn't explicitly Lakers, though, right? It was like Dolphins or something.
It doesn't have the official branding, but it's not the Lakers.
Buss hosted the freaking premiere party.
Oh, did she?
She executive produced the show.
Yeah, it's a Lakers thing. Yeah.
What I just want the level of wealth and fame and power in which I can executive produce a series about my life and cast the equivalent of Kate Hudson to play me. I think that we're all aspiring to that level.
Rob,
Damson Idris, come on down.
You're inviting the question though, like who plays you?
I don't know. This is not for me to answer. We got to do a wide casting call.
You know who plays Rob?
Who's that?
The blonde dude that did the rom-com with Sydney Sweeney?
Glenn Powell.
I'll
fucking take that. Let's go.
Glenn Powell playing you, bro.
Come on.
I was going to go with
Chalamet's going to play Justin.
I'll take. You know what? I'll take Paul Dano too. I'll take all of it. Maybe it's a what's the Bob Dylan movie?
No,
I'm not there. I'm not here.
Shia LaBeouf is gonna play Justin. That's who's gonna play Justin, bro. Just aggro, just angry, just flying off the handle at all points.
But for good reasons, though,
yes,
right?
Of course, fully justified.
I have to say, since we're an hour into this podcast, Max Strus, I saw him I got served his like Instagram in my algorithm because clearly I've been looking up enough stuff, or we've been talking about him enough that the robots think I'm interested. I think part of the headband might be because that line is drifting backwards.
Tough. He's got to get to Turkey ASAP.
Yeah, I got to say, like, there's a lot going on with me as I age, but that line is crisp.
It's rock solid.
Put it that way. Tell the Bachelorette that.
It's crisp.
All right. Why don't we wrap it there? Thank you to Isaiah Blakely. We'll be back on Monday in order to recap this exciting, thrilling Game 7, we hope. So we'll talk to you then on Monday. See you soon.